I want to talk about what causes the bevel height differences. Now, the bevel height may be caused by the knife maker. Let's get down to the beginning. One thing that many of us fail to do or fail to realize the importance of doing it is when we start with any knife, we are excited to sharpen it, we take it, we clamp it up, we start doing, and what we notice right away is things that aren't behaving how we expect them to. The burr formed quicker on the second side. The burr I can't get rid of. My height of my bevel on one side is not as tall as the height on the bevel. But these are things that we notice after we start, and we fail to take the steps to know what we're working with from the onset. What I'm trying to say is we need to take a knife before we start, every knife, and look at it and see how it's shaped and see how it's ground and see how even it is. And you will notice that many knives are inconsistent. For you guys that are engineers, that are measurers, you guys can take your calipers and whatever, and you guys, I'm sure, can chart it out and measure it out and know exactly how symmetrical that knife is. That's a little more particular than I find it necessary. But the point I'm trying to make is that, how can we say it? This is a straight edge. We're going to mount this level, pretty level. We'll call this level. When we set the angle 20 degrees with our angle cube, we are 20 degrees to that bevel edge right there in the center. And we're working with this fixed angle sharpening system with the assumption that this 20 degrees that we set here, as we work the entire edge from the tip to the heel on both sides, we're going to make that all 20 degrees. Part of your edge, your knife changes, your knife edge changes. Let me see, let me grab something here. Here's a curved knife. This is a straight knife. As this knife curves below this vertical point, that angle that we measured at 20 degrees at the center, now when we get over to here out on the tip, where we're working with a curved knife, this is lower than this. So in essence, it is further away from the stone. The point that I'm making is that incidental angle at each point along the knife, even though this is a fixed angle sharpening system, that incidental angle in essence does change because this height changes. And that's where we get into the sweet spot and clamping, and the bottom line is it's a balance. This guided sharpening system, the theory, it's based around that fixed angle for the full length, but when the height of the steel changes, when the thickness of the steel changes, thinner or thicker. If it's thicker, it sticks out further, so it's closer to your stone. If it's thinner at that portion of the steel, say up on the tip or down here, then in essence, that might be further in or further away from the stone, and the angle changes. Because those incidental angles change as we sharpen our knives, it takes some finesse, some work on our part, working both edges in order to keep that even. When you draw that burr on the first side and that second burr comes quicker on the second side, the automatic thing, the process that we go is we sharpen it, because when we have a burr on both sides, it suggests that we apex the edge, we finish it off, we make a very fine sharp edge, but then when we look at it, the bevel height isn't the same. Now we can have two things going on here. One is the second bevel formed quicker, so we didn't put enough effort on that side to work that bevel height, to even them out, to ensure that that edge is centered and it's even and the bevel height is the same. But the other issue that comes up that Ed was so adamant to point out is on the standard vise setup, like the WE60 or the WE100, the knife clamps against the left side and the right side clamps to hold it. And by the nature of the standard vise, many knives will clamp with a slight lean to the left. That's for the standard vise systems like the WE60, the WE100, the WE120, those vise, those WEPS systems with the standard two-piece vise. They can, by the nature of the grind of knives and the physics of the clamp, they can clamp your knife with the slight cant or slight lean to the left. By leaning to the left, you are changing the orientation or the angle between the stone and the edge. If you are leaning into it, you are making a grind, a bevel that is more vertical and may be taller. On the right side, if you're leaning left, you're leaning away from it. So you're not touching it at the angle that you had set it at. You're touching it at an angle that is more flat and more parallel to the knife. So depending upon how it leans and your angle, I may have had that backwards because on this side when you lean, you're leaning closer to the blade, so you're in essence working the tip more, and the bevel side on the left may tend to be shorter, look shorter, and work quicker because you're working a shorter bevel. And that's what Ed's point was, is that we have two things going on here. One, that if we're working one side first and then the other side and not keeping it even, you may get your bevels out of whack because it's easier to form your first burr. The second side burr is quicker. That leads to the whole cascade of events that you don't necessarily work both bevels evenly to keep it even. Then the other aspect is whether you're using a dual cam vise or the WE130 with the old style roller cam vise, or we're using the standard vise that may physically cant your blade. All these things need to be taken into consideration when you're forming your burr and thus when you're forming your bevel in order to keep bevel heights the same. Now the bevel heights may be something that we caused by not understanding the physics or the clamping orientation, and that one burr form quicker than the other. And it also may be due to the knife is not the same on both sides. It's not a mirror image. It's not exactly balanced. There's a lot of knives made. There's a lot of inexpensive knives. There's a lot of very good knives that are handmade, and they are not perfectly balanced shape and sidewise from side to side. And that's just a physical thing. And then if that's the case, then with finesse, we try to adjust how we work the edge to balance out the effort in order to create an aesthetic and appearance that is more balanced to our eye. Thanks.